Welcome, everyone. I hope that you're having an amazing day. Honored to be connecting in with you. And today we're going to be talking about confidence, style, and success. How can we show up powerfully? We've been focused on the theme of summer star as we are in June and July months. And I like to really look at how are we choosing to show up? Are we treating life like a dress rehearsal? Next time I'll really show up and next time I'll share that piece of information or that thought I had. Or are we really showing up and sharing who we truly are authentically with the world? And our hope and a bit of a stretch and a challenge that I have for us is let's show up. Let's share who we are. Let's really shine the amazing gift of who we are out in the world. And it's a choice we get to make every single day, sometimes multiple times in a day. Let's choose to share. Let's choose to show up. Let's choose to share the amazing gift of who we are, of who you are out into the world. Today, we have two amazing guests that are going to come alongside us and help us with this challenge, help us more and more show up as we truly are in how we look, how we feel, how we're showing up, how we're communicating, what we're sharing, how we step into our confidence, to our courage. All really important things to help us truly show up and shine out in the world. So I'm excited for our conversation today. I know you're going to get a lot of value out of it. And to help you, I wanted to give you a few tips. One, I encourage you, have a piece of paper where you can take notes. Choose to be fully present, not multitasking. This is your time for you, an opportunity for you to be present, to receive, to be poured into. So choose to be fully present. That's my second tip. And third, be open. Be actually excited to discover something new that you hadn't thought about before, a new tool you can add to your toolbox, or a new perspective you hadn't had before. Be open to really hearing and receiving everything that's here for you today, because I know there is something important for you today. That's why you tuned in. And I want you to receive it. So let's take a breath in through the nose, all the way to your toes. I want to make sure you're getting oxygen everywhere in your body to every cell. So breathe that in and then breathe out like you're breathing out through a straw. And I love taking a moment to pause and breathe. One, we forget to breathe deeply throughout the day, and it's important to do so. Two, I like to picture when I breathe in, I'm breathing in all that support to fill me up. And as I breathe out, I'm releasing what no longer serves, creating room and space for more. And to dial this up, I invite you to close your eyes. You're absolutely safe. Continuing to breathe. You're going to have lots of moments to pause and breathe today. I hope you enjoy them. And as you're pausing and breathing deeply, and eyes closed, you're absolutely safe. Let's put both hands on our heart. I want you to notice the beat of your heart. Then, as you're noticing that, notice there's a little pause in between each beat. In that still, quiet space, what is your heart sharing with you, beat by beat? What is it whispering to you today? What is it inviting you to remember, to discover? What is it you need today to support and empower you? Let's receive that information. Take another breath, big one. Open your eyes, become fully present. I even move my shoulders a little bit to make sure I'm back in my body, fully present, and with all of you today. Take a moment and write down what was laid on your heart when you took a moment to stop, pause, and listen. What came forward? And let's keep that top of mind throughout our conversation today. So I'm going to go around our virtual room and ask each of our amazing guests to share just a quick short share, something that was laid on their heart when they took a moment to stop, pause, and listen. Deborah, I'd love for you to start. What was laid on your heart?
I was thinking my fight or flight kind of feeling has just removed itself by doing some
Mm.
deep breathing. So I think it was very helpful.
I'm so glad we don't want that. We want you here present. I
Yes.
love that. So we got to breathe that and release that out and just release it, move it away. I love
Mhm.
it. Thank you for sharing. And that's a great tip, even as we start, that when we feel that it's fight or flight or this or that, that we get that tightness, we can remember to pause and breathe and just release that. And I think we have much more clarity and presence when we're able to do that. Breath is so powerful and positive. So thank you for sharing. Danielle, what about you? What was laid on your heart?
I would say being grateful. So when I feel like I take a deep breath and I'm able
Mm-hmm.
to kind of center and come back to my body and focus on the moment that I'm in now, I've really found myself lately in those moments just feeling so unbelievably grateful for the opportunities I've gotten and the work that I'm doing right now. So just being able to sit in my body and sit with that feeling of gratefulness is something I feel like that's really special and I really enjoy it.
I love that. And
Mm.
all in one breath and one moment, we can choose to stay in that space of
Yes.
gratefulness. And I love that you enjoy it because so often I think we check things off our list and like move to the next thing instead of,
Yes.
right, staying present and really enjoying and appreciating where we're at and allowing ourselves to feel that the energy of that, to feel the emotion of that, and to enjoy. We don't have to rush on to the next thing all the time.
I
Beautiful.
completely agree.
Thank you. I love it. I love it. Listeners, how about you? What did you feel or discover as you took a moment to just breathe, slow down a little bit? We're always in a hurry. So, slowing down a little bit and hearing what our guests have shared already. How is that landing in your heart and your spirit? As we go to our first commercial break, I encourage you to stay present. Really give yourself the opportunity during these 2 minutes to be present, to breathe, to enjoy. If it's gratitude you're feeling or other things you're thankful for, enjoying that, really staying present in that. And we'll continue our conversation in just 2 minutes. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you enjoyed those 2 minutes. Really getting to be present, that's enough. You get to discover what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and be in the moment. I'm excited to introduce our first amazing guest. And I'm going to give you just a little bit of a snapshot of who she is, a little bit about some of what she does in the world. And then I know she has some great insights that she'll be sharing with us. So, Danielle Holman is a wardrobe stylist and founder of I'm so sorry. My mind, I got excited. I started to scan ahead. So, founder of Staples and Statements, with over 8 years of experience helping people discover their personal style. And she believes fashion is a reflection of identity and confidence and even self expression. Through her signature fashion archetypes system, she helps her clients understand the style that truly reflects who they are authentically so they can show up in alignment with how they're made out into the world. She is passionate about helping you create a wardrobe that feels authentic and great and really helps bring forward who you are and shares that deeply and powerfully out in the world. So let's lean in, warmly welcome the powerful, dynamic, and talented Danielle Holman to the show. Welcome.
Thank you so much. That was such a great intro, and I'm so grateful to be here.
I am excited to have you here. And I know just before we got on, I was excited to also discover that you are part of the Women Rising TV show series in Palm Springs. So excited to add that into the mix and let everybody know about that powerful series. So welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Rebecca.
Absolutely. And I wanted to start with why. Why is the work that you're doing in this fashion space, in working with women and their archetypes, and then also even looking at the TV show series? You're showing up in all these different ways. Why is this work that you're doing so important to you?
So that is a great question, and it's one of my favorite questions to answer. So I would say it's kind of a twofold answer. So I have been playing dress up since as long as I can remember, right? I think about way back when I was 3 and 4 years old and playing with my younger sisters, picking out dresses and shoes. And then I also had a mother where every single morning we would help her lay out all of her work clothes, her high heels, her jewelry. So I feel like from a really young age, it was something that I just naturally gravitated towards and something that really lit me up on the inside. And as I got older and I started applying it, out in the real world through careers, through how I show up every day, I realized that fashion is a medium that can really help people feel confident. It can be a way to express your identity and how you show up in the world. And I think it's also one of those first things that we kind of take note of, right? Oh, their outfit is so interesting, or oh, I wonder what that's telling me about them. It's an immediate visual cue we get from someone when we're out in the world. So I think the reason I'm so passionate about it and kind of my why behind the whole thing is I really, at the end of the day, want to make people feel confident. I want people to go out into the world and be comfortable saying, this is who I am. And this is genuinely and authentically how I show up to the world. And that's really important to me because we've all heard the phrase, if you look good, you feel good. And I really do think that kind of permeates into every section of your life. So, really trying to build that confidence to make people feel really good from the get go.
Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. I can hear your passion for it. And the roots started at a young age for all that you're doing in this space. And I love how you were talking about confidence and how the way they look and they're showing up can impact that. So I'd love for you to expand on that a little bit. How does fashion impact a person's confidence? How are they connected together?
Yeah, definitely. So I think fashion, when it comes to reflecting your inner identity, fashion is so important, right? Because it's a visual expression. And I think that's something that people kind of forget on a day-to-day basis. I think a lot of times people can kind of look to fashion as, oh, it's just something I throw on in order to go about my day for the rest of the day, right? Without realizing that it's actually telling the world something about you. It's really the pieces that you pick can be a story that says, this is who I am on the inside, and it's how I reflect it on the outside, right? So I really think, just like anything else, confidence is kind of a muscle that you have to flex and to build stronger and stronger until you have that confidence where it feels natural and it comes natural. And I feel like the same goes with fashion, right? You're figuring out, how do I express on the outside what I'm feeling on the inside? And how do I put myself together so that the world sees a little part of me? I think those are tied very closely together.
I love this perspective and how we're having an opportunity to share a story about ourselves visually and what we choose, how we show up, and that it's this muscle that we get to build and learn and discover. Do you have a suggestion for someone that's, wow, I never paid attention to that, or I always feel a little like I'm wearing a uniform that's not quite me? Any thoughts or advice you would give as they're kind of building those muscles to become, to be able to share on the outside more of who they are on the inside?
Yeah, definitely. So I would say my biggest suggestion there would be playing around and having fun with it, right? I think so often, I love what you just said, Rebecca, about the uniform piece of it. I feel like in this day and age, we've gotten a little kind of cookie cutter in terms of fashion. I feel like people see a lot of trends, they end up jumping on the bandwagon, and then they wonder, like, oh, why do I have these things in my closet that I'm not necessarily reaching for? Or another one that I kind of like joke about is the beige mafia. We also have this very like neutral group of fashion, I feel like, where we've kind of stripped all color and pattern and kind of fun out of fashion, and it's kind of turned into this just uniform way of thinking of, I throw something on and it's easy and it's ready to go, right? So in order to kind of get back to that root of discovering fashion and building that confidence, is play around and have fun with it. There's no rules in life, right? So you're allowed to try different things, try pattern clashing, try that color you're kind of scared of. And an exercise I actually like to do, even with myself, being someone who lives, breathes, and eats fashion, is I like to take photos and kind of compare the photos side by side of like, oh, I really like how I coordinated that pattern with this color. Maybe the next photo, I'm like, oh, I didn't really like how that bag coordinated with those shoes. I'm going to try something else. You almost get this really fun visual diary where you get to kind of go back and say what worked and what didn't, but it becomes this fun exercise where you get to play and you get to be a little kid and say what really makes me happy and lights me up when I put certain things on, right? And I always like to think of confidence too. I'm going to get a little nerdy on us right now, but I also like to think of confidence as a muscle we need to flex like anything else, right? So we have neurological pathways in our brain that really make one easy thought easier and easier to think that way the more you think it, right? So I almost think of a path of like snow. The more that you walk on that path, it's going to become easier and easier to go that way. Now, if I wanted to choose a different path, I'm now going to be knee deep in snow, trudging through the snow, right? So the same thing goes with your confidence. Like figuring out those daily exercises and those daily self-soothing thoughts to flex that muscle, make it stronger and stronger, is going to be something that just makes that much bigger of a difference when it comes to your confidence.
Thank you for sharing that. I think it's helpful to know that it might feel a little stretching at first, or we're breaking new ground, and
Mhm.
that's normal as we're learning new things
Yeah.
or relating with things differently. And I was even thinking when you were sharing about playing, having fun with it. I know when I wear something that makes me smile and sparks something in me, maybe it's a bolder necklace than I might normally wear, or something that means something to me that was given to me and I wear, when somebody comments on it, I light up. I love having
Mhm.
that conversation about that. And I feel like it creates this authentic true connection because it's something that means something to me. And having someone appreciate that and comment on it helps create a nice, authentic connection. Have you
Yeah.
found that as well?
Yes, and I feel like I completely agree with what you just said, Rebecca. And I think the psychology behind that is you feel seen, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
you picked something that genuinely and authentically means something to you, whether it's a memory tied to it, or again, whether it's something that just lights you up. And it created that kind of almost little dopamine hit of you look at it and you're like, oh my gosh, I love this. I want to wear it today. Having someone recognize that makes you feel seen, and it makes you feel confident in the sense of they recognize that little piece of me, which I think is such a cool part of fashion.
I love it. I love it. Now, you shared a little bit of your deep roots, your long roots, as far as how long this has been something that you are passionate about and love helping people around. Was there a moment in your journey that kind of helps fuel the success you have today? When you kind of look back on that, is it a turning point or it gives you that additional boost that you may need that day?
Yeah. I love this question so much, Rebecca, because it's one that I've actually thought long and hard on just kind of over the past few months of what was that moment where I was like, aha, like I get it. And I think the thing that I would want to share the most when it comes to that moment of success is really believing in yourself and starting to act as though you're already successful. So
Mm,
the example that I can give with that is I have been passionate for what I do and about fashion for a very long time. But I think it's when I started showing up as though I was already out in the world doing what I did. That's when it really kind of created that turning point for me. So, for example, I started building myself a website with all of my services. I started creating digital guides based off of my experience, my background, the research I've done. And I really started creating content because I loved what I was doing and I was passionate about it, right? So when I actually had my archetypes video end up kind of blowing up in terms of like my Instagram and my TikTok, that's where I started getting, a lot of my following and people were really engaged in this fashion archetype system I created. I was so proud of myself because instead of kind of panicking and having to swim through this, sudden wave of people being interested and people contacting me for styling services. I was actually already set up because I was moving as though I already had
mm, mhm.
multiple styling clients. So I would say that would be my biggest thing that I've seen in terms of my success is knowing what I want to do and jumping head first into it. Telling myself that no matter what comes, this is something that I love, something that I've done in terms of my career, something that I'm passionate about. So I am going to show up in the world as though I have been doing this for 20 years, even if I've been doing it for 5, 6, 7, 8. I want to really dive headfirst into just owning that this is who I am and this is what I want to do. And I'm not going to give up no matter what.
Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. That takes a lot of courage to do and to show up in that way of who you truly are, who you're becoming, and to really own that space. And I love how people responded. And when they responded, you weren't scrambling behind the scenes trying to catch up.
Exactly.
You were ready.
Yes. I felt set
You were
up.
there.
Exactly.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. I love that. Well, I so appreciate your time today and all the wisdom and insight that you've shared. I love your passion for fashion and the perspectives that you've added, how much it matters what we choose and put together and the fun steps we can take to start maybe playing with that a little bit. Any final piece of advice or share that you'd love to give our listeners today?
Yeah, I think the final thing I would end on is, and you kind of just touched on it, Rebecca, it can be scary, right? It's also not one of those things when you decide to step into the world and show up as fully authentically yourself. That doesn't mean that there's not thoughts that are, overwhelming or thoughts that creep in of, can I do this or am I built for this? And I think the one thing I would end on with just the final piece of advice would be no one can be you, right? It's like you can show up to the world being genuinely and authentically you, and no one else can bring that to the table because you have something special that no one else has, right? So I think when it comes to personal expression and believing in yourself and really trying to, again, step into the world with that, sit with your thoughts, let them pass, and then be able to pick yourself up again and say, I can do it because if anyone else can, why can't I?
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate it. We are getting ready to go to our next commercial break. And as we do so, I encourage you to stay present as the commercials are playing in the background. Really sit with what Danielle has shared with us. And what is a step that you can take? What is that piece of clothing or accessory that's been kind of speaking to you that you would like to bring forward, that you'd like to share with the world? And find a way to do that. Take a step, start to share that. We'll continue our conversation in just 2 minutes. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you enjoyed those 2 minutes and had some things kind of pop up that you're like, I'm going to try this, or I'm going to start taking pictures and see some of the great tips and perspectives that Danielle shared about confidence and authenticity and really using that visual moment, that opportunity where people see you to actually have them truly see you and to connect and share a story about you and how you share the way that you put together your outfit and what you're sharing with the world. It matters and it's communicating. We're communicating already. So let's communicate on purpose what we're wanting to share out in the world. So I know I took a lot of notes and some great takeaways. I know we're going to also have some great takeaways from our next guest. I'm excited to introduce her to you. So Deborah B. Farone is an internationally recognized marketing strategist and CEO of Farone Advisors LLC, where she advises leading law firms, professional service organizations, and executives across the US, Europe, and Asia. And she supports them and gives them advice around business development, branding, and leadership, really helping people bring their practices forward powerfully. She's drawing on decades of experience, and she has been a sought after and is a sought after speaker, best-selling author, and educator. And she is the recipient of the LMA Legacy Award and is passionate about women advancing in law and in leadership. Let's lean in, warmly welcome the powerful, the professional, and expansive Deborah B. Farone to the show. Welcome.
Rebecca, thank you so much. I have to live up to that now.
I have no doubt. And
I'll
I'm
try.
thrilled to have you joining us today. And I'd love for you to share why. Why is this work around supporting women in particular, around law, around leadership, executives, kind of growing their reach and their impact? Why is that so important to you?
Well, believe it's because for so many years I was the chief marketing officer, the head of marketing and business development for two large law firms. And I would occasionally see women lawyers, particularly partners, who were so incredibly talented and so smart and had such great people skills, but they often didn't feel comfortable developing business. And I see what happens when you have talented people and they do get the right support and they do get the right kind of coaching or training or information to really develop a practice. And my feeling is if they can be better at selling themselves, they can write their own ticket. They can create the type of practice that they like with the types of clients that they'd like. And if they ever need to leave their firm and start their own business or go to another firm, they're much more likely to if they have that sales skill. So that's really what motivated me to want to do this.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm just sitting there thinking, wow, these amazing, talented women, maybe shrinking back a little bit or not really leaning into all of who they are and what they can bring to the world. And not only does the organization or the practice miss out, but they miss out. I love that opportunity to write their own ticket their way, which means they
Right.
can show up even more powerfully and more impactful. It just serves everyone when we can show up more fully. So I love that this is something that you've observed and is so important to you. And I am curious in this, and just to give you an opportunity to expand a little bit about what sparked your interest in understanding women around this and building thriving practices.
Well, I've worked with probably as many men as I have women.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the men I've worked with have been incredible at garnering their networks and going out with people and very often staying in touch with people. But there isn't one style. And in many ways, this is what Danielle was saying. I think there are individual approaches that you can use to developing business. And each person, whether they're a lawyer, they're a consultant, they have their own entrepreneurial company, they can do it in a way that's authentic to them. And so, for example, there's an incredible woman in Milan who I've gotten to know quite well. And what she does, her office is right around the corner from La Scala, the famed opera house, and she loves the opera. So instead of inviting her clients for drinks or dinner, which might not feel as natural or might feel kind of awkward for whatever reason, and we can surmise what those are, she invites them with their spouses and their families to join her for an evening of seeing a short opera and then a fantastic dinner in Milan, where they discuss the opera, they discuss life. And so that's her way of developing business and developing her practice versus just saying to someone, let's go for a drink. She does something memorable, which provides a great experience. And That way, it allows her to develop a real connection and have it be authentic and empathic and very real.
I love that. And also creating a comfortable experience in a sense for the person or the group, the people that she's looking to build this relationship with, because they just experienced something together. So it's very
Right.
natural to talk about it, and it's creating a probably a lasting impact, especially if that's a first opera for somebody to
Absolutely.
experience. So that authentic connection is a powerful gift, and she's bringing the spouse in. So now creating a connection with the spouse as well. I think that's just brilliant, and it's playing right into who she is and how she's made. Anything you would add to that?
Well, I think what's also interesting is that if you're doing something that you enjoy with a client, whether it's shopping for shoes, or it is, going to the theater or having dinner together at a new restaurant, they do remember that experience positively. And if you're excited about it, they can sense that. And you're more apt to do it again and again. So if I said to a partner at a major law firm, you need to be going and speaking at conferences regularly, but they hated speaking at conferences. That wasn't their thing. They didn't mind taking people out one-on-one. They probably would not do a lot of speaking at conferences, even though I told them to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's really important, especially when you're developing a business, to do the types of marketing things that feel right to you, that are authentic, and those are the ones that you'll probably excel at.
I love this. And I'm just picturing those people who are like, okay, I'll go speak at the conference. Like that energy is going to come
Right,
across.
right.
And that's miserable in the audience to watch someone who you know doesn't want to be there speaking. So it doesn't serve them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's very true.
I
So I
love
think
that.
you think
Mhm.
about your strengths and what it is that you enjoy doing, and very often those are the things that you'll have better success with.
Now, I have a question around this because I have had it come up on several shows, and it's around waiting for permission
Hmm.
versus just leaning in and claiming or taking that step. What are your thoughts around that in this conversation?
Oh, I loved what Danielle said about, going and setting up the website and her Instagram account almost before she had the client. I'm a big believer in taking steps like that. I think it can be scary, and I know it can be, but what I tell people is take baby steps then. So if someone is concerned about selling themselves to clients, try it out with a family member, try it out with a friend, then try it out with an existing client. So you take baby steps because in marketing is very much like muscle. It's when you do it for a professional service, you have to do it more often to get better at it. It's like working out. You can't lift a heavy weight immediately, but you can work up to it. And I think if people realize that, rather than thinking you're either born a rainmaker with this amazing skill or not, I think that makes it more accessible.
I thank you for sharing that. And that brings up another question I have. And I was just scanning on some of the topics we were going to talk about, and I believe this was on it. So it's around, I feel like we have this preconceived idea of what a salesperson is or what selling means. And to me, as you were sharing, practicing and those conversations, how do you help people that maybe have this stigma or concern around being perceived as a salesperson and selling things?
I love that question, Rebecca. Um, I, can tell you from my own experience, and also from talking with people like Samantha McKenna, who runs a large group called Sam Sales that teaches people how to sell in many ways, that you're much better off seeing it as what can you do to support these businesses or these people for, their needs, rather than what can you sell to them. And very often my conversations with potential clients are, what can I do to support you? And very often, it might not be that they need to hire me right away. They might just need an introduction to someone I know, and that has a value. But if you see it as supporting someone, it becomes a lot easier. And for so many people who have been in professions like law or medicine or accounting or consulting, it's easier to use those words, and I think some of this, again, it goes back to authenticity, is finding the words that feel right to you. And I think also understanding how trust is built. Trust is built very often over a long term. It's not something that comes instantly. It needs to involve demonstrating expertise, providing empathy, being authentic. So, starting to work at those things and understanding that they'll come slowly, I think, is also a big part of it.
Thank you for sharing that. I know I was one of those people that had that perception
Uh,
around sales and ended up continually being put in a position to sell.
yeah,
And I love what you shared because what I found shifted things for me or moved the dial for me is I saw people that I had talked to and I had shared with, but I had been tentative. I had shrunk back a little bit from really giving them, I think, solid direction. Not that they had to buy, but good information and really standing in it. And I would see them make decisions in the end I knew were probably not the best for them. And it
right.
really bothered me because I felt like, you know what, I'm the expert in this. I know this in and out. I need to stand in it better. And I'm okay with whatever their decision is, but I need to make sure I'm doing my part when they ask.
Yes.
And so I started to almost come alongside them more as to me, it was a consultant and give them information kind of in the industry. This is where we fall. Here are the options, like helping them walk through all of that so they could see the decisions and the pathway. And here's where we might be able to help them, or here's where they might look for something a little bit different. And that felt very aligned for me. And I found it built trust, it built long term relationships, and they would come back or refer people to me. So it became easier when I showed up in that way.
I think that is spot on. There are two professors at Harvard who have written several articles on building trust, and they basically focus on the banking industry, not on law or consulting, but I think so much of it is transferable. And what they say is that there are three elements to building trust. The first is logic, being a logical thinker. I think of that as kind of the expertise involved in that business, but also empathy on the other side of it and authenticity on the third. And so I think you really need all of those things in order to create trust. And it happens over time. But empathy, what you're saying, getting to know someone, being consultative rather than a pushy salesperson is a much better approach. Um, and, we've all seen, and it's kind of a typical Hollywood version of it, the lawyer who pounds his fist on the desk and says, "You have to hire me or you're going to go to jail." That's not everyone's approach, nor should it be. So I like the fact that you're thinking authentically.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Our time is going so fast. I wanted to um, just get your thought on this. That is there one mindset shift or one perspective you would like our listeners to walk away with today based on our conversations?
I would say have grace with yourself and know that it's going to take time. Realize that you're not going to develop this skill if it's a new business skill that you want to develop overnight, but it will happen. You just have to take those small baby steps.
Thank you. I love that baby steps count. They're still moving in a direction. And especially if we're building a new pathway forward, um, baby steps might be wise because you're breaking ground. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Deborah, for your time today and your expertise.
My pleasure. It was wonderful to speak with you.
Thank you. Well, listeners, we are getting ready to go to our next commercial break. And as we do so, This is an opportunity to look at your notes. Remember what was placed on your heart when we started our conversation. Really see what's coming forward as you process all that Deborah has shared. And when we come back, we're going to let you know how you can connect and go deeper with our amazing guests. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you have a page full of notes, that you've had some things just kind of stick with you and shift a little bit of how you've thought about fashion or what you're wearing, or you know what, I'm really going to step forward and do that. Step into those authentic connections. Or I'm so glad to know I don't have to have the quote unquote sales conversations only this way. I can actually develop those authentic connections in a way that aligns with me, and I can have fun and be excited about what I'm putting together to wear, to share parts of me that I'm willing to share with another and have conversations and connections about. So, just really, really great tips, perspectives, and information today. And I want you to be able to take these connections and these relationships deeper, to go further, because we're just touching the surface on these. There's so much more that we can dig into. So I wanted you to be able to connect with our listeners, to have that direct contact and connection, that we do, that we've been able to have. So we're going to have them share their contact information. I encourage you to have your paper ready, have your pen ready, really write this down. We're being intentional in sharing it with you. It's not just because that's for drill, that's what we do. We really want you to connect. And for those people that you feel that pull, they're inviting you to connect with them, because sometimes we're a little shy. So they're inviting you to connect. So, with that, Danielle, I'd love for you to share the best way for people to connect and go deeper.
Yeah, so I would say the first point of contact would be my website. So it is staplesandstatements.com. staplesandstatements.com. And then the other one would be my Instagram. It's at Little Danny, and Danny has 2 N's and 3 I's. So at Little Danny with 2 N's and 3 I's. Those would be the two best ways to connect with me.
Do you mind spelling that out just for in case we got lost?
Of course. Yeah.
Counting.
So it's little. So Little, and then Danny, DANNII at Little Danny.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Of course.
And then, Deborah, I'd love for you to share your contact information, the best way for people to connect.
Sure. The best way really is for me, LinkedIn. And it's Deborah with an H at the end, Farone, like far one. So I'll spell it out. It's Deborah, DEBORAH, Farone, FARONE. And it's Deborah Farone on LinkedIn. And I also have a website, which is deborahfarone.com, and it's spelled again DEBORAH, Farone, which is FARONE.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And then, Deborah, I believe you have one or two books. I just thought you might want to, for people
Yes.
who are interested in learning more that way, if you don't mind sharing the titles and where to get them.
Absolutely. Sure. Breaking Ground is my latest book, and I interviewed about 60 women rainmakers around the world to find out what they did, what the magic was for their building practices. And you can get it on Amazon. That's probably the easiest. And again, it's called Breaking Ground. And the earlier one was on business development in law firms, and it's called Best Practices. So if you're running a company or a firm, Best Practices is the one to get.
Perfect. And that's on Amazon as well.
Yes, they both are on
Perfect.
Amazon, or if you want to try the publisher directly, it's Practicing Law Institute.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I just love people to know about the resources that are available. And I know, Danielle, you've got a lot of resources available on your website as well. So lots of tools and things that we can lean into to grow. And what I always like to remind all of us that this is just life is not a solo journey. I don't know where that myth got started. It's not true. We can come alongside each other, support each other, learn from each other, and grow together. And I hope that you lean into those resources and tools to support you because you are a gift. There's no one else in the world just like you. And you're absolutely needed just as you are. And the biggest impact we can have in the world, the biggest way we can make that change that we want to see, that we can bring forward light into the world is being willing to share more of who we truly are authentically and confidently, and maybe even growing the confidence on the way that we're willing to share and shine out the gift of who we are. So as you go out into the week, out into the world, out into the day, I encourage you to choose how you're showing up, choose the steps that you're taking. Because remember, the day doesn't get to be in charge, you do. So I hope that you choose to bloom where you're planted and shine. Have an amazing